freedom is the what's the word? I can't even think of the word now. I don't know, maybe richest. Like it's the most. It's the most priceless commodity. That's probably the word. Priceless. Freedom is the most priceless commodity that I have ever come into contact with. And it feels like something that keeps on presenting itself. It just keeps on presenting itself. Basically, it's just like it's like walking in a forest and just finding new pathways. Just every time you walk through the same forest, you find a new route, a new peak, a new clearing, a new area, a new, direction to take. And it's like you've been through that forest so many times, but you keep finding a new part of it, or the song that you keep hearing and you keep finding new layers to it, new instruments that you sounds that you didn't hear in it before, the film that you keep watching, and there's just subtle layers of it or meanings coming through. And it's just like freedom is like that in the song or the film of someone's life. It's like, where do I feel limited, and can I introduce a bit more freedom there? And it's not even something you introduce, it's something you just open to and allow in. And I thought, I had moved through a lot of this stuff, especially in my teenage years. As a teenager, there's this whole rebellious phase that we all go through, and someone could have parents that were very restricting and they break free of those restrictions, or someone could have parents that were very open and allowed a lot of freedom, and the rebellion comes through restriction, because it's always just going against the grain. I've met people who've been very liberal with their children, and their children still want to rebel against that liberalness. They're like, they want to conform, they want to fit into societal norms. And then people who have been brought up in conditions where there's a lot of societal norms, and then they want to break free of that. So freedom has no kind of textbook presentation. Like freedom is in its nature is free. It can break all kinds of seeming ideas of what freedom is. So even for in my life, for example, what I consider to be free and what the ways I'm discovering freedom may not be freedom for someone else. I've been talking about this a lot lately, but think about the film Moana. Moana grew up in this fucking luscious tropical paradise, but all she wanted to do is sail off into danger. And someone could grow up in a really poverty area or war zone, and all they want to do is go to a tropical island. Like, freedom is different for everyone, what that means. And for me, at the moment, it's taking form in ways I couldn't even imagine, and discovering ways that I feel like I'm still being parented, not by my parents. Maybe some of the conditioning came through my parents or through other facets of society around me, my school, my friends, my family, my colleagues, um, you know, all these things. But really, I'm finding it more and more, like even subtle ways I didn't realize that I'm being parented, and they're like tethers. You know, it's like and something keeping me anchored to something else. For example, um, you know, there's people that I know who feel for them that freedom is having their own home and having security, you know, in whatever form that takes. A job that pays well, a house, a car, you know, all these things, and that could be freedom for them. And for me, that feels like a tether. You know, I feel like I'm bound. I feel like I'm constricted by a mortgage or um, by achievements or some kind of sense of um, stability. Because to me, in my life, every seeming sense of stability that I've come across has had no solid foundation to it. Everything that I can think of doesn't, for me personally. So like money money feels secure to a lot of people, like having savings, having like a certain amount, and that gives them a sense of freedom to play, to not be constricted by things, and that's great. And then in another sense, the value of money can change overnight. There's been, you know, countries where like the value of their currency has just completely like dip, dim, diminished or you know, reduced drastically, and suddenly they go from having a certain amount of wealth to not that much at all. They can't afford things that people in other, I mean, I come across it all the time in my line of work. You know, there's people who say, oh, our currency has exchange rate has drastically changed recently compared to other countries, so I can't buy this certain thing, right? That's what the people saying that I come across in my line of work. And you know, it's just more proof for me that, you know, money doesn't feel secure to me. Another thing could be a mortgage, having a house, having a sense of kind of stability there. Again, for me personally, I just don't see it. Everybody I meet who has a mortgage are worried. They're worried and they're stressed about paying off their mortgage. They're just constantly like having this looming thing over their mind, like, oh, I need, you know, you don't understand. I've got a mortgage. I need to pay this off, and you know, and then with that comes this unspoken kind of narrative running in the background in this weird structure that we have called society, where it's like you aren't mature if you don't have these landmark things. You haven't hit a certain level of like maturity in life because you don't commit to a long-term job, a mortgage, a certain status, a certain amount of savings, having a family, having a car. These are like ideas of responsibility, and having a certain amount of responsibility equals a certain amount of maturity. And if you feel into all of those things, they all have a sense of fear in them as well, right? If I don't have a mortgage, I won't be able to survive because I don't have a house and security or savings or a car or a long-term job or a certain skill set or even a family. There's a biological sense of continuity and therefore survival of your genes, and that's really, really unconscious, but it is something that plays out. Granted, on the mental and physical level, mostly people have kids for a sense of love and expression and enjoyment and expansion of their their emotional and physical world. But like, there is this genetic thing at play. So I don't really know what I'm talking about here. I'm just rambling. But like, I feel it. I feel it in people around me. This sense that I can feel it. This sense that I am I kind of an immature person to them because I don't have certain check boxes that you need to be secure, and therefore I'm ducking responsibility and just trying to live carefree and not like getting serious about life and doing life proper and getting on with things. And it's just like, but the common trait I feel in that energy is a sense of fear, and a fear of not surviving, but also not like being mature for some strange reason. But what I find, and the ironic thing that I'm finding more and more in my life, is it actually way, way, way scarier to the mind and to the ego and to the sense of stability to live your life without those securities, because then you are literally throwing yourself into the unknown and anything could happen to you. Anything. You don't know where your next money is coming from, and you don't know where your next, if you have money next week for food, or where you're going to sleep. And that scares the shit out of most people. And it's scary. Even for me, it can be scary, but there's so much freedom in that. And it's actually way, way braver, way more like mature to me, in the sense of mature as in, actually, I'm not relying on this tether that the government have said I need to have to feel secure, because the government are just another layer of parents. Tax, mortgage, here, you depend on me and I'll give you this. You depend on this and you'll have security. You depend on money and you will survive. But it's your birthright to just exist and have everything you need come to you. But with that acceptance and that trust, that deep, deep trust in life, it takes a fuck ton of bravery to just throw yourself into life. And when you do that, so much freedom opens up and you literally can play. And with that sense of play and with that sense of freedom comes this childlike play, this childlike playfulness. And that triggers people who are getting serious about life even more, because they see someone like me and someone like you, if you're resonating with this, as someone who doesn't take life seriously. Oh, look at, they're just so like carefree and going with the flow and so playful and so just like they're so immature, they're so childlike, they never grew up. And it's actually the opposite. It's actually the exact fucking opposite. There is more maturity in play than there is in getting serious about life, because once you get serious about life, you're stuck in the game of dependency. And when you're stuck in the game of dependency, you are telling life that you need parenting. You need someone to look after you. You need the government to look after you. You need a mortgage to look after you. You need money to look after you. Because you can't look after yourself. But really, I can step outside now and I can live under a fucking rock. I can live under a tree. I can find berries. I can, you know, I can find herbs. I can survive. Because we're built to fucking survive. This is literally in your cells, is how to survive with nothing. In fact, if your ancestors didn't do that 20 generations back, only 20 generations back, if somebody didn't discover how to live from nothing, you wouldn't be here right now. So they literally did that so that we could be here right now in this time and live this life of luxury. There's so much luxury now. We don't have to scavenge for food. We can go and buy it, which is great. You know, that's the time we chose to live in now. It's this time of like, okay, these things I don't have to worry about. They're accessible, so I can play even more. And the ego might hear this is well. If you want to play, you need money, and then you need to save and and yes, that's true. Maybe you do. There's nothing wrong with that. Have money, earn a lot of money, use it, spend it, play with it, hoard it if you want for this sense of security, or hoard it, you know, to save up to buy something, and then play with the thing that you buy. You know, there's no solid rules to what I'm saying here. It's different for everyone. But the energy behind what I'm saying is palpable within myself and with others that I notice. You can feel the judgment, and the judgment comes through me too. It comes through me because I judge. I can be like, oh well, this person's afraid of surrendering to life, but maybe that is their sense of freedom. So I'm not even exempt from this, but I've definitely felt it. Distrustful though that you take in life is just, it takes you on adventures, and these adventures can be scary, and sometimes you don't know where your next pathway is going to take you. And yes, there's that is one of the aspects of freedom. But it's so much more fun because it's an adventure. And if your ancestors didn't go on an adventure and discover new land and new pathways and new types of ways of new foods and new combinations of you know, ways to do things and just be creative and be brave, you wouldn't be here right now. Adventure is in your blood just by being human. So why shy away from that in the safety of security that's not even really safe? Your house could get burned down by a lightning bolt in a flash. Literally. Money can mean nothing overnight. So embracing that is embracing the nature of life itself. And it's so fucking liberating. I cannot begin to describe how much more playful and carefree, worry-free. It's not like you don't care about things. You care about things. You still want to brush your teeth. You still want to look good if you want to look good. You know, like You know, you still want to eat nice things and treat yourself and go to do things and go on holidays and buy things, and none of these things go away if you don't, if that's what gives you joy. um but you're not worried anymore. You're not worried about whether they're there or they're not, or sustaining them, or where, you know, what's going to happen to you if you don't have a certain amount of income next week or next month, or, you know, this worry just drops, and it's just like, oh my god, life has had my back the whole fucking time. It always will. Why? Because I'm literally an expression of life. How can it not? I chose I chose to live here at this time because this is the most playful time that I could choose. I chose to be born into an environment where I can have technology and travel and money and things to play with. So why not? And maybe for some people, they need to test this like I did, and test it by actually surrendering those things, that stability, that money, that technology, those things, and live that way for a bit to see how much I don't need to hold on to it. And then when that freedom is accessed within you, that rich, rich substance of freedom that allows you to see that you don't need any of these things, then the freedom is also there for these things to come and to go, and to come and go willy-nilly, because that's when you they just appear when you need them. You have the money you need for that moment, you know, and all these things will have you stressing about, but I've got this direct debit coming out my account, and if I don't have enough in my account when it comes out, I'm fucked. You know, or like the planet's fucked, look, everyone's fucked, everyone's going, you know, we need to sort it out. And, you know, maybe that's the game you want to play. Maybe you've chosen that game to play, of like, I need to fight this battle and help this thing, and that's how I'm choosing to live this adventure, this game cartridge of this lifetime that I've put into my game console. I'm playing the game of rescue the environment, you know, Super Rescuer Brothers. Or maybe your next game you play is like Super Monk State, like just fucking zen out for a whole lifetime on a fucking mountain or something. And maybe your chosen adventure in this game in this lifetime is Super Adventure Time, and pushing the limits of freedom. How free can you be when you're surrounded by limitation? How many limitations can you challenge and soften? The, the nature, the substance of the universe is pure acceptance, because it's allowing anything to play out, any adventure that you choose. And you have this choice to play any adventure you choose, and that means you can change the game at any point. You can take that game out and put another game in at any fucking point. And I mean that literally. It doesn't even mean like changing things in your life. I mean, you can literally just change your entire experience. So my question to myself, and perhaps to you to ask yourself, is why not test it? Why not experiment and send this kind of energy back to yourself, from yourself, of acceptance, in the frame of, this is the nature of life. It is unstable and chaotic, and it's moving all the time, and it's flowing, and it's it's like, like Bruce Lee said, it's like water. It can flow or it can crash. And if you just roll with all of that, then this rich kind of very varied experience starts to flow in your favor, and your expression, your unique expression, channels this creative desire, and that allows whatever you need for that desire to be fulfilled to come to you, whether it's money, whether it's a job that you can do remotely, whether it's the ability to travel, whether it's the ability to just not travel and just sit on your ass all day, whatever, whether it's a house and a mortgage, maybe that's your freedom. As long as there's no fear in it, it could be a sense of freedom for you. It could allow more play. But it's where there's that fear, and you can always sense it in someone because there's this judgment around those who are challenging societal norms and seeing them as immature or not conforming, like, or seeing them as lucky. Oh, look how lucky they are. Everything just comes to them. They don't care about anything, and everything just works out for them. They must be lucky. And it's like, no, it's not true. It's just because they've just, decided to go with the play, like this dog. Looks so happy and carefree, but it's just pure play. In it. Say hello. Hey. All right, rant over.